Hello, welcome back. We're going to do a bit of work on Bob. Enjoy. Thumbs up, thumbs down, subscribe for more. Usual stuff. Contact me, churchhouseclassics, it's all one word, at gmail.com. And yeah, enjoy this episode in which I am going to be fiddling around with the chassis and the axles. Okay, first task is going to be to drain the diff down. Now, these early cars, they had a slot on the diff drain plug. And you think it's like a big screwdriver slot. You can see this thing is absolutely full of fucking sand, which is hardly surprising, is it? And the easy way of doing this is actually to use, believe it or not, a 1/2-inch spanner. I shall explain the method behind my madness, because you think I'm a lunatic now, don't you? So all I really do here is I put the ring end of the spanner into the slot, and then use something like an adjustable on it. And when it's on there, you just give it some leverage, and it should start to undo. There we go. That's how you get these things undone. I'm sure there's a special tool, but why use a special tool when you can use a 1/2-inch spanner and an adjustable? It's really tight, this. I suspect it's corroded in to a certain extent. Now the other thing I've got here is my handy old Rover V8 sump, which I'm just going to catch all the oil in. So I don't want to be making a horrific great mess on the floor. This is very tight, it's almost like it's been glued in, which wouldn't surprise me. Right, I'll tell you what else won't surprise me, is if this thing is bone fucking dry. Right, just lumps of sand and stuff. No, there is some oil in there, so there's a big old drain plug on that. Now all I do now, just lower the axle, there goes the oil, which looks quite thin actually. I think there might be a high level of water in that. It actually looks like an engine oil. It's not frothy, so I don't think it's had water in it. Actually looks like engine oil. It's got the kind of the see-through gold look to it. And having done this, you see, it just makes life a little bit less messy before we start stripping the whole thing down. Weather's not so great today. Really isn't. I think that's going to be the lion's share of it. Now, my approach for this thing, because obviously the thing needs an assessment. It needs stripping down. It needs taking apart. Blah 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 blah. Everything's going to come out of it. It's going to be checked over, assessed, and put back together again. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to replace everything on it. Because I've got a feeling there's going to be quite a lot of stuff that's going to be alright in here. Famous last bloody words, you know how it goes on this channel. You can actually use the ring end like this, you see, as well. Just for loosely putting it back into place. No, that will do. Just going to stop it leaking. Right, so that's the oil out. Okay, now I've got no oil left in there. I want to get these dampers off. Now the dampers actually work. So I'm not necessarily that interested in destroying them just by running an angle grinder across the nut. I'm going to try and retrieve them because although I'm fairly sure they're a lifted damper, maybe 1 or 2 inches, they might be useful to someone. And if I can sort of like extend their life a tiny bit by lobbing them onto eBay or something like that, then you know it's going to make the project a little bit greener, isn't it, rather than just taking things off and lobbing them. Now, I need to get some release penetrant on these nuts because they're looking particularly rusty, and also we need a bit of wire brush action on here, I think. Someone's chopped this back plate around a little bit. Or have they? No, it's over there. They have to cut a lip off, I think. I don't know. Anyway. Do that. Put a little bit of my favourite specialist fast release penetrant on there. I'm going to do this one. Actually quite shiny underneath the surface of this rust. It's quite shiny, and I think this is what I'm going to find as I go over this. Although the chassis looks really badly rusted, this surface is not bad once you get past the surface corrosion. So I need to kind of wash the salt off rather than pushing it into the pores of the metal. And this will be part of what's going to happen before I strip the whole fucking thing down. It's not going to need a horrendous amount of work, I don't think. That there looks new now. Right, 17mm, I guess. Good old tool roll. So all the tools I use on this bloody project, pretty much every single tool I've got is fairly standard. There aren't that many specialist things that I've got. Where I do find specialist tools, they are worthwhile. It's worth, I don't know what I'm chuntering on about really. When you find stuff at Auto Jumbles or on eBay or whatever, get the best quality you can. Is what I'm chuntering on about. I think, I don't know. This might be a bit of a tall order to do this. We'll see. No, that's just going straight round. So where's my adjustable gone? I might just grip the end with an adjustable. Is what I'm doing here. And if that fails, then I'll grip the damper tube with a Silson. And quite often when you're undoing something like this and it's a bit on the tight side, I do find the best way of doing it is to arrange the pieces like that and then squeeze your palm together. That's too far apart, that one. Like that. There you go. And that's actually got it going now. Now the nut is turning. That can come off. Do this now before the wheels come off, because then ultimately when I get the wheels off, this thing will be standing on axle stands, and it's going to be, come on you bastard, sort of fairly stable. Right, now it feels like I can actually get hold of the tube now. So I'm just holding the damper tube itself. In fact, there we go. Unlike with other cars I've pissed around with, there's no spring, there's no weight on this damper. It's literally just the bottom there. It's not quite so pleasant today. It's been, well, this time last week was 26, 27 degrees. Now it's 15. So there you go. And all this damper comes off. All its original rubbers on it. I think they were fairly recent. Oh, what's happening here is just the whole thing is pivoting over onto its upside down. Let's allow it to go upside down now. There we go. Assemble this lot back on there. It's all complete. I mean, I know the damper tube itself is looking rusty. That was a bit awkward. That was an awkward gesticulation then, wasn't it? I know the damper tube is looking a bit rusty, but it works. Nice and smooth. And it bounces straight back out again, look. So that to me is a cosmetically damaged but fully functional damper. hence me not just wanting to cut the end off it. Make sense? Right, we're going to get these things off next. So we're going to get the link arms, trailing arms off. So it involves getting these bolts undone. And as you can see, they're not the best. I've got no idea how long they've been in there for. Sometimes they seize solid. I can see this one's still got rubber bushes inside it, metallastic bushes. So there we go, big old Halfords Advanced spanner. 24 it is. Now, is it going to actually undo? Sometimes, what you can actually do, this is a well-known trick. We go back a little bit. You just get another spanner, put it over the top, thus, and then you've got extra leverage. However, I'm going to need to stand on that as well. We're doing it up, aren't we? Silly arse. We need to be undoing it, Richard. You need to go that way round. It's going to, there we are, turn. So that, with, I don't know, what's that? Get 3 foot of leverage, it's actually starting to turn the bolt, which is useful. So, because it turns and it's coming off the thread, I might not cut it off. Let's go on there like that. One of these that I undid on Alan, the 1972 car, it had been polybushed and they hadn't lubed the bolt before putting it through the stainless sleeve, and yeah, it was a pain in the bollocks is all I can say. So I ended up running an angle grinder down between the arm and the bracket and then rotating the bolt because I couldn't get the disc right in there, and eventually managed to snap the end of the bolt off. Did that on both sides and then pressed the bush up, complete with the bolt still seized into the stainless housing. Yeah, just because it's polybush, don't think you don't have to lube it. Other brands are available. But that way, it's almost off. And then once this is off, there it goes. These off. Now this is going to be hot, warm, ooh, hot. Now I need to get that out of there. Oh, that's nice. Out it goes. Put the spanner over the outside, wiggle him out. Still got paint on it, green paint. I think it's an original bolt. There we go. And he is out of there. That'll do the job. Right, what I generally do with all this crap when it's off, because it's going to be a week or so till it all goes back together again, painted, rebushed, etc. Just put the bolts, nuts and washers back in. So I have got over here, if I can get hold of it, the box with all the other big washers and the big nuts. So I just want to pop those back on here. Clean the concrete dirt off the thread. 2 big washers and 1 big nut. There it goes. So that's all on there now. So I know that's 1 unit ready for refurb. Go with the other arms and A-frame arms that all will need painting. Now interestingly, when it comes to taking the brake lines off the back of this thing and the brake line bracket off the top, the screws that hold the clips onto the back of the chassis run the brake line through, 2 of the 3 screws undid. I mean, I wouldn't expect them to undo on my 1993 car. Good grief. Right, we've got the other one off. I used the windy gun because I could. I've got it and I'm not going to kill myself trying to do it without a windy gun. Now this particular windy gun is a Clark X Pro, and it runs at maximum of 7,000 RPM, which is not going to do when it's working in windy mode, but 680 Newton meters of torque. It needs 6.2 bar of pressure, and it needs quite a lot of CFM, cubic feet per minute. I'm running a 3 horsepower Draper 50 litre compressor, and it's all right. So when the tank's full, it has a good go, but as soon as the compressor kicks in, because the tank's starting to empty, then the compressor can't keep up with this gun. So I have to pause, let it fill up again, and go again and again and again. And it's just, okay, so I'm not going to buy a really expensive, the compressor I think was about 250 quid. This gun was about 100 quid. But it's probably, after the impact wrench, the most useful tool that I've got in the workshop, because it really will shift shit. Now, the reason why this arm was so wobbly wasn't actually to do with the bush, it was to do with the bolt. This bolt's not been done up properly, and you can see there's a bloody great big shoulder around it, here and here. You see that? Monster shoulder. So when I put the full diameter of the thread into the hole, it's got about 0.5 millimetre of play on both sides. So I know that the washers on the sides of the chassis are good. Because on the 72 car I had to grind the washer off and put a new washer on, weld a new washer on, because it wasn't the right diameter, and because of that, because these holes are elongated, it caused me difficulty. Now the bush itself is tired, but it's not, you know, it wasn't the cause. The bush was not the cause of all the free play, it was the bolt, and you can see there that bolt is fucked. So I'll lob it in there just for shits and giggles. This is cooled down yet? Yes-ish. Sort of cooled down. Ow! Yes, a little bit cooled. Ow, I'm not holding that anymore. Right, and then same as the other side. Just a case of putting the 2 washers back on it, because these big washers, they don't come with the kit. They don't come with the polybush kits. So you need to hang on to those. You need them. I don't think they come with the polybush kits. Anyway, it's pointless chucking shit away until you know you're going to need to chuck it away. So there we go. The nuts on the end, 2 washers, another arm is ready for refurb. Right, I think we can put this thing on stands now. I'm going to get a pair of stands. And then I can support it. And we can get the thing stripped down. Right, so what have we found? Well, first and foremost, the stub axles, which are over here, are in pretty good order. So the early style with the removable seat, this is where the hub seal sits on this edge here. And they're not bad. They're marked, but I think they're marked because of the sand that's been going through. Sand or salt or whatever it's been driving through. And I think it's just been, because it's been off-roaded. Both of them are like it. They're easy enough to replace. The rest of the stub axle is in really good order. The discs, both of them, I'm going to scrap them. There's no point keeping this shit. They're corroded. They are. I mean, that is a fucked hub seal on that one. And the other one wasn't any better. I got the hub seals out. They came out really easily on the back of the hub. I suspect that either they were really nasty cheap patent copies or they were fucked. Well, either way. And then we got the hubs off. So front hubs, and what I've done is I've marked the near side one, and I've marked the near side bearing as well. Just tagged it so the bearings and the hubs stay together. until I give this lot a real good clean up, I don't know the state of the bearings in here. So we'll see. We will see. I don't know yet. Anyway, so rear axle now. I'm not going to bother removing the differential until I've cleaned the casing. I can't go at the casing until I get my solution to get rid of the salt off the surface. So basically what happens here now is, because there is the possibility of salt on the surface of the metal here, if I was to go at it with a machine grinder or whatever to take the surface rust off, I end up pushing the salt further in. So I really want to give it a kind of a, I can't remember the name of the product now, it comes from Rust Buster. There's plenty of other, I mean you can use baking soda and car wash solution. There's all sorts of different ways you can do it, but just literally spray it on, hose it off. And then I can clean the surface back, degrease the surface, clean it back, and then paint it. It'll be prepped for paint once all the surface rust is off. We've got a pair of serviceable brake shields. Now, I thought they'd been cut, but I don't think they have. I seem to recall that they had that all the way around, and not just most of the way around. So I don't know about that. I'll need to double check. But like much of the rest of the car, they're serviceable. They're in good shape. The calipers on the back, they are Lockheed. They're probably original. This one here, you can see it's pushed its seal out. I might send these off because these actually, there's so little corrosion on the inside here. This could well have been new, so I might just get these off to Big Red and just get them to service and powder coat them. Make sure all the fixings come out first of all, and the bleed nipple, look at the state of that. But they're both like that. So that's the, that would be the passenger side one. And this one is the driver's side one. And again, Lockheed, surface rust, nice big web on it. Looks pretty new, doesn't it? What do you reckon? Anyway, that's that. Get those sorted out. I think what I'm going to do next is, I mean, first of all, I've tilted the angle this way so I can just drain any oil that is in there out. Now, this axle appears to be running an engine oil rather than an axle oil, a diff oil, which isn't, I don't think it's too much of a problem actually. I prefer a heavier oil on these things because that's what it says. I don't know how an engine oil would work on some of the bearings and some of the surfaces inside the differential, but we'll find out. Oh, the other interesting thing is I could not get the passenger side drive shaft out, and it's got a really nasty mark on the end of it. Let me go and grab it. I don't quite know how it's got a really nasty mark on the end of it. Here, it was wedged on tight, and you can see here, that's actually started to shear there. You can see where it's gone through. Too much torque has gone through, and it's actually been damaged, I think. I will take advice on it because these things are prone to snapping off. Under extreme circumstances, you just break it off here, and that bit stays in the diff, and you lose drive to the back axle because the way the differential is going to work is going to send the up drive to the path of least resistance, which is going to be the broken side. So it's possible I'm going to need a new drive shaft, well, a used second-hand, used old stock drive shaft, which will be better than the one that I've got. Right. So I think now that this thing is empty, I'm going to repeat this entire process because we are currently 3:15, and I might as well repeat this process and get the front axle apart. Hey! Just cleaning your hands up. Sorry about that, noisy background. Now it's all kind of largely stripped down. It's a manageable weight. I mean, I'll still need to be kind of a Hercules to lift the fucking thing, but at least I can. So, without the discs, the hubs and so forth, it is manageable. I might end up doing an afternoon of degreasing all this shit up here. Tons of it. Tons and tons and tons of cleaning shit up. Clean it all up, label it, bag it. Right, what have we found? Everything's cleaned up really nicely. So the stub axles are cleaned up. You can see the wear points where the bearings have been, but I can't detect a ridge. So they're serviceable. It would appear that the bearing has slipped a couple of times, because this one, certainly this inner race here, you can see a bearing might have seized on there, but it's more than serviceable. I'm happy with that. The hub seal seat is this piece here, and this bit on these earlier hubs is actually removable. Just drill a hole through it, hit it with a wedge, and they come off, and you replace them. So I will replace these, because while there's not a horrendous ridge, there is a ridge, and it just gives the new seals a fighting chance of working. Similarly, this one is looking good on the inside. You can see how clean and tidy it all is. Just cleaned up nicely. I don't know whether these are original to the car or not. I'll check the part numbers and stuff like that, but you can never tell. I mean, the car's 49 years old. What disappoints me about this whole fucking thing, look at this. Why do people do this? If you've got a Land Rover, next time you put an order in to Paddocks or Famous 4 or whoever else you happen to use, just buy a bloody hub nut box spanner. They're like £8, and then you don't have to do that. Anyway, so they can go in the box ready. I've cleaned all the bolts and everything up, so it's all sorted out. So all of this can go away, ready for when I put this axle back together again next week. The hubs themselves, so obviously I've taken the disc off, cleaned the hubs up, they've come up really nicely. No real issues at all. I've left the bearing seats in. Now, what I do with these things is I often just look at the bearing seat and just check the quality. It's difficult for you to be able to see. I'll show you the bad one, but two here are serviceable. So this is the offside rear. Both of those seats have a nice even wear pattern. I'll give the offside bearings a clean, and what I do, when I take the bearings off, I put the outer spacer, the outer bearing, the inner bearing, just tie wrap it all together so I know which is which. Okay, I know that's the outer bearing, I know that's the inner bearing, and then I don't get them mixed up when I put it back together again. These need cleaning off in some paraffin, and just really just make sure that the rollers are all intact. There's no real nasty things, but looking at the seats, I would suggest that hub offside, no problems at all. Happy with that. Near side, less so. The other thing I've done here is I've just replaced all the bolts. I put all of these are the hub to disc bolts, and I've written on the back here, near side, you see. Hub to discs, and the only reason I've done that, by the way, is because of the wheel bearings. Otherwise they're kind of, you just mix and match. I think they're pretty much the same on all four corners, the hubs. So the inner bearing, it shows signs where the bearing has stopped and been sitting for an awfully long time. You can see where the rollers have just been touching the surface, but nothing particularly nasty. And on the outer one, I don't know if you can see this, that is as rough as a badger's arse. That seat, that really is horrible. Now I don't know if sand's got in there or what. Now when I look at the corresponding bearing for that seat, which is this one, it looks all right. It honestly doesn't look like there's too much of a problem. It's got the right sort of amount of wear. These things are supposed to be floppy and bobble around and everything because they get tighter the more load you put on the hub nut on the outside. But it looks all right. So I don't know. It's going to end up. I'll scrap that bearing. I'll scrap that seat. Right, let's go and drag this thing in. How are we going to do it? I have to, I think, in here. Should be able to lift it. I can. So I can roll it through. What I need to do is get these stands out. So let me go that way, pick that stand that way, pick that stand that way, and in we go. What I do is I use these two stands just here, to rest this end of the chassis on. Get my feet out from underneath it. That'll do. Right. We now need to get this front axle off. Windy. Right. So we can get these nuts undone. These it's the nylon part of the nut. It's caused me bother here. It's not going to come off. I think also there may well be some corrosion. Oh, this is what I'm fighting against. Get it past this bit of corrosion. Oh. Fuck's sake. That is ridiculous. It's starting to get easier. Well, the nut's going to get replaced anyway. If the worst comes to the worst, I will use an angle grinder on the nut, but I think what the problem is that the bar is twisting as I'm hitting it with the impact wrench. So all it's doing is jarring it on the impact part, and then it's reversing back, springing back to where it came from. Clearly the worst of the crack off the tray. It's not much on it. Bit of lube. And we'll do the same thing. La 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 la. Right. Over y'all. Shut up now. Just taking the bush out on the reverse side of the arm, and it just makes life a little bit easier when you're dragging the thing out. These are all rubber. Oh, that's warm too. Right, now, you want to really roll out now, but the trouble is the stands are fucking moving. Let's get all this fucking out. That's filed. What I'm going to do is I'm going to raise the chassis a bit more. Like that. That's out. And then do the same on the other side. Need that much. So I think right, we're out. There we go. wheel you out. There we go. And then if I what I can do there we go. Done. One axle removed. Right, now, I think what we do next, because it is 5:30 and it is a Saturday, is we go and grab a beer, I think. Yes, I think that's exactly what we do. We go and grab a beer. Well, that was fairly straightforward. Nothing really nasty. There was a couple of bolts missing off the front hub. I think someone had probably tried to disassemble it already. I'll just put that one back in there now. It's all in fairly good order. So the hub was full of one stop, but then it was also full of engine oil from the diff, which is odd. Caliper makes me laugh. So someone's painted it. What sort of prick paints it with the fucking pistons in there? Paints the pistons. Yeah, that'll go on the pile. The ball is new and immaculate. No issues there at all. That'll get a good old clean up tomorrow. The hub seems okay. Disc would appear to be new, but it's probably going to need replacing because of the surface rust. I need to get rid of all this red paint off it as well. The CV joints I shall disassemble. I'll show you how these things come apart. It feels a bit loose. You get a feel for these things sometimes and you think, yeah, that's just a bit too loose, that one. It might be fucked, but that's not a huge issue. They are available. That's about it really. I'll do the rest of this tomorrow because it's way past 10 o'clock. We'll get on with that side. And when that side's off, we can sort these arms out. Oh, this is an interesting one, by the way. If you ever get the wobble of death when you're driving, that would not help it. I mean, for crying out, how much? And this is just by hand pressure. So I'm just literally, and I am no gorilla. That's fucked. Got the old radius arms off, chassis off, it's all stripped down, but I think I might have found out why this thing was a bit on the wobbly side. I mean, honestly, this thing, these bushes here were doing nothing. In fact, that there is going to, I think it will, it's going to come out. It's going to come out. I'm actually pushing it out with my fingers. And this one's not much better. This is the driver's side. In fact, the driver's side one is loose as well. Pushing that one out. That's how effective that was. It's not very good, is it? It doesn't give me an awful lot to grip onto when pushing these bearings out. So he pushes out. And I'm going to get these bushes pushed out tomorrow and strip it all down, paint it, get it all ready to put back together again. Oh yes. So what do we get out of this lot then? Right, there's the front hub carrier, goes over the top of the swivel ball. Okay, it's been painted red, but overall, pretty good shape. That's nice. That's really nice. That's quite a pleasant surprise. Tinsy wincy 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 little bit of corrosion. Top edge, it's right up against the top bearings, probably because it's been left standing for too long. But it's certainly way outside the sweep area of the seal. Arf, arf. Happy enough with that. That just needs kind of the red paint taken off it, really. Stub axle is a later type. So this is the later type with the non-removable seat. However, it looks pretty good. Happy with it. Does the job. And then, oh, the other thing. So we've got the front CV joint, and I'm going to basically strip this thing down, and I'll run you through the process of taking one of these things apart and tell you how to find out if it's knackered or not. So basically, the obvious test would be getting out on the road and doing the lock-to-lock test. But let me relocate, get you on the tripod, and we'll go through this.